Happy Halloween. I know you're wondering, what is he doing? Well, if this is your first time, welcome. If you've been here before, you know we're always up to something. Welcome back. This is Bonms. I'm Ross. And if you clicked on this video, you already know what we're talking about. We're talking about a four-letter word, but ruins tons of lives. And I'm going to show you today how to dismantle this four-letter word because that's all it is. It is a four-letter word. And I'm excited. I'm fired up, and I believe I'm going to be here a while. So if you don't mind, excuse me in advance. I will, take a few sips here and there of kombucha. If you don't know what kombucha is, it's filled with a lot of probiotics that's good for gut, because it's been proven that a lot of diseases within the body starts from the gut. So if you have a Costco, Kirkland, this is ginger lemonade, organic kombucha, ginger lemonade. And it has 2 billion probiotic cultures. So that's what we're going to be sipping on today. Kombucha, as always. Trying to stay healthy so that we can continue to deliver great work here over at Bonms. So welcome. I'm a nun, and today we don't want none of fear. That's what this is about. No fear. No fear. So if you're here, welcome. Let's jump right into it. Fear, let's break it down. It's an acronym for something. False evidence appearing real. What does that mean? It's false. What is false? Let's just take it back. Let's just peel back layers. We're going to be here a while. We got a lot of great things that we want to talk about, but we'll break it down. What is the first word? False. False is simply what it is. It's fictitious. It's not real. It's not true. It's impossible. When you think about it like that, false. It's just false. It's not true. It's the opposite of true. Evidence. If you go into the court of law and you present evidence, whether you are proving that the plaintiff is right or the defendant is right, whichever one has the best evidence, that's where the deciding factor, that's the deciding factor. We can have we have a lot of discrepancies and pretty much who can deliver the best evidence. But in our world, we're just going to keep it simple. Evidence is something, whether if you have evidence to prove something is true or false, it's evidence, it's facts, it's material. It is evident that the sun is hot. It is evident that if you look at it too long without some form of protection, you might be in trouble. But it's safe to say that we all can agree that it's evident that the sun is hot. Fear, false, evidence. Those are two statements that contradict themselves when it comes to us believing in it, because it's false evidence. If we are in the court of law and my job is to prove that the plaintiff is telling the truth or the defendant is telling the truth, whichever one, truth, not truth, truth that the plaintiff is telling the truth, my evidence can't contradict that, and vice versa. So it's false evidence, appearing, the illusion. It is a facade. It's fictitious. It's fake. It's not real. It is equivalent to seeing an oasis in the Sahara Desert. It's not real. Don't fall for it. Don't walk those 4 miles in this blazing sun that we just agreed that is hot, just to get there and realize that, wow, it was a mirage. It wasn't real. And that's how fear is. It controls us. It makes us go out of our way to appear real. It makes us go out of our way down this rabbit hole thinking that what is not real to be real, only to get there and realize that, wow, this isn't even real. I worried all this time for no reason at all. I put so much belief, so much faith, so much stock into something that is not even real. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So if you feel like this is something that you might want to hear, stay tuned. There's a fly in the studio and it eats. We're going to stay focused because that fly doesn't want none of me. All right, so let's jump right into it. How can we overcome fear for good? First and foremost, we have to understand and realize that it's not real. It's not true. It's fictitious. It's a mirage. It's an illusion. And we will overcome it. We just have to outwork it. We have to outwork that state of mind. This is literally Halloween now. This is like I have went from a good nun to now it's like I'm the nun off The Conjuring. I have flies around me. Man, I don't know what's going on. This has become a horror movie. But that was pretty funny. I am a horror movie fanatic, so flies, yeah. Green goop, people coming out of the painting. Where was I? Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Stay with me. Fear. You have to outwork it. Well, you might be thinking, Ross, how can you outwork fear? It's a psychological thing. It's a thing that you can't touch. It's an inanimate object. It's impossible to grasp. Okay, right. All of those things are true. So why would we put so much stock into something that we can't actually touch? We need to look at fear like an NFT. It's a scam. It might have its times in history where it's like, oh, buy. You have to buy into it. But it all depends on who's pumping it up. Who actually benefited from buying NFTs? Those who created them, those who sold them. And there's always little strings being pulled behind the scenes. And that's how we have to approach fear. But we can't be the one pulling the strings. We have to be the one cutting the strings because it's false evidence appearing real. We can't allow fear to be a puppet master over our destiny, over our future, over our way of thinking, over our finances, over our communication skills, over our relationships, over our partnerships, over anything that we do in life. We cannot allow fear to have such a powerful yet silent vocal contribution in our life. We can't allow it. As a matter of fact, over here at Bonms, we won't allow it. We won't allow it. Because for the first time in our life, we're going to experience something that was almost fairy tale, was almost mythical, was almost just as fictitious as fear itself. So if it's just so easy to fear because fear is so prevalent. We have become so attracted in a way to fear that when we see the opposite of fear, we don't even know how to take it. We try to understand it. And the opposite of fear would be faith. The opposite of fear would be belief. The opposite of fear would be newness, renewed mindset, a renewed way of thinking, a renewed structure, a renewed just new. That's the opposite of fear. Because we only fear lions and bears and tigers and everything else dangerous in the Sahara Desert. We only fear them because we know what they're capable of. But let's just say you've never experienced a lion, ever. And I'm not saying that you should go do this, just solely for example. But just, and this is definitely not false evidence appearing real. This is definitely very, very real. But however, I just want to paint a scenario. And I'll it's just a parable. It's a metaphor to bring us back to the original topic. Let's say you love cats. I mean, you love cats. You are a cat man and a cat woman. You love them. They're so, everything about them, their agility, their speed, their just charisma, their whatever makes you love them, you love them. And you just, oh, you can't get enough of cats. You love them. You love their eyes, their coats, their little furs, and how they differ. But let's say you're walking in a jungle and you see this huge cat, and you're like, oh my gosh, I want that huge cat. It's like going to the fair, and for so long you've always had your little mini teddy bear, the one you cuddle up and go to sleep with. But you're getting bigger, but the bear seems old Teddy seems to be getting smaller, but in actuality Teddy's the same. You're just getting bigger. And the same is applicable for this lion. You've grown. You're bigger. But oh Mr. Whiskers and stuff, he's staying the same. So he appears to be smaller. So now you see this big cat. And you're like, oh, I want that big cat. I've never seen something so beautiful. It's so agile and this. But then you see it take down its food, and you're like, oh, on second thought, that can do that to me. I no longer want that cat. I like smaller cats because if anything, if all fails, it won't eat me. And I said that to say, we know the capabilities of the bigger cats. So we like to have something protecting us from it. We like to admire from a distance because we know what it's capable of. We imagine the hurt, harm, and danger that it can apply to our lives. And that's kind of what fear does for you in the regular life, and you're bringing back to you if you tried something before. If you attempted to spread your wings and be that entrepreneur, if you attempted to spread your wings and get into a serious relationship, if you attempted to invest and you don't get the outcome you want, what can happen is you become frightful, you become fearful, you become, oh man, what that investment that I thought was going to be good for me, the same is applicable for that big cat. Oh my God, I want that big cat, until you realize what it's capable of. You don't want that big cat anymore. So the same things for your investment. Oh, I know that this investment is going to be good. I believe in it. But it takes a few points down and you're like, oh man, I just lost money. I'll never do that again. That's fear. That's false evidence appearing real. Or same thing in a relationship. Oh man, I gave my all to that relationship only to get hurt. I'll never do that again. And the list just goes on. Oh man, I spreaded my wings. I quit my job and I wanted to be an entrepreneur only to get slapped in the face and door slammed and I'll never do that again. Those are all false evidence appearing real. Because those things that I just mentioned are all temporary. Those things, if you change your perspective, are battle wounds, battle scars to teach you how to plan better. Because when you plan better, you attract better. It teaches you to understand, yeah, sure, that relationship didn't work out. That partnership didn't work out. That's not supposed to change you. It just changes you put that same energy that you put into that previous relationship into one that who you're meant to be with, or who deserves that type of companionship, that type of fire. And you're like, well, how do I know? That takes time. But that also, you're only supposed to be given the person who you are anyway. So just because that person rejected who you are, that person wasn't for you. A key doesn't change It's formed based off the keyhole. No, the key just isn't for that lock. So what do? You keep trying until you find that lock, and boom, you open that door, and bam, you're home. But don't do it too much because you might get in trouble in certain neighborhoods. But metaphorically speaking, that's exactly what I mean. You don't change yourself. See, that's what fear does. Fear makes you change who you are. Fear makes you be drawing board and saying, you know what? That didn't work out. So I'm going to change this about myself, this about myself, this about myself, and that about myself. And then you become fearful. And then you forget who you originally are. That's not how it works. What you're supposed to do, you go back to the drawing board and you figure out and you realize who you are, and you figure out how to give that to the person who is deserving of that. The same is applicable for investing. You understand a strategy. You figure out what goes along with you, because when you are investing, you need to invest in something that goes along with what you believe, because now you don't have to do that much research. You're already knowledgeable about this particular thing. Me, I'm not that interested in, let's say, I don't know. It's not about me. But if you're not that interested in cars, maybe, or know about cars, maybe you should invest in something related to cars, unless it's just a deal that you cannot turn down, or is something that you might not really be knowledgeable about, or don't really feel like doing the research. That's not for you. That's not being fearful. That's just understanding that that's not for me. However, I am still willing and ready when the opportunity presents itself that I will invest. That's what I mean. It's a difference between being strategic and fearful. We're not going to be fearful. We can be strategic. Everything that glitters isn't gold. What that simply means is it might look shiny from afar, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's worth your time. Save yourself the time. It's a mirage, because once you get there, you realize, man, it's a pot of glitter, and you end up with the mess. And you look like the mess and then now you got to travel all back and you're sneezing glitter, and now you look like a fairy on Halloween. What do you say about that? You just hutch and glitter everywhere. And then you getting other people messy, all because you follow something that wasn't necessarily true in what you believe. So don't be fearful, be strategic. And that is applicable to relationships. That is applicable to partnerships. That is applicable to finances. Do not be fearful, just be strategic. So, and that's another thing. And I mentioned earlier that you can outwork your fears. And what that simply means is that, for example, if you have an investment opportunity, outwork your fear. Your fear is going to tell you, oh, you shouldn't do it. Why? Because you didn't do the research to see whether or not it's a good idea or it's a good opportunity. So you'll just say, yeah, I don't want to do that. It's because you're fearful, because you don't want to outwork. At least come to the conclusion by doing your due diligence and realizing that, yeah, you know what? After great deliberation, taking the time out, spending the time figuring out and dotting all my I's and crossing all my T's, I realized that this is not the best investment for me at this particular time. That is completely different from being fearful. Fearful is just saying, you see all this literature in front of you. No, I'm sorry, I can't do it. You're fearful because you don't want to outwork that fear. You just want to submit to it. The same thing can be for your job. You're afraid to take that promotion because there's uncertainty, but you are deserving of it. You're just uncertain of the amount of work, the amount of hours that you might have to put in. Who cares? You can outwork that fear. It's false evidence appearing to be real. You are worthy of it. You are deserving of these things. But what you have to do, you have to put yourself in position mentally to be able to receive the greater outcome. And it's going to take time. It's going to take time no matter what you do. If it's worth doing it, it's going to take time. Unless you're just lucky and you just, can roll the dice and, like Mr. Lottery, sure. But for us normal people that aren't so lucky, we have to put in the work. And we have to appreciate the time, our time, and the time that we put in, because it's only making us better. It's for a reason. It's all about changing your perspective. It's not about laboring and mummering. you have to labor with joy. As crazy as that might sound, as bizarre as it might sound, as cliche as it might sound, you have to have some type of appreciation because you know, okay, why and while you're doing this, greater is coming. And that's what eliminates the fear, because what happens is if you don't approach it this way, fear begins to set in the mind. Why are we wasting our time? Why are we working towards something that does not seem to show any type of affirmation or any type of reward at the end? And then what happens, you begin to put a time frame on certain things. And also what happens, you begin to question, is this even worth my time? And all of these are false evidence appearing to be real because you didn't approach it in a manner that made sense for the long run. Everything is about compounding interest, whether it be finances, relationships. When you are in a relationship with a person and you both are equally pouring into it because you both believe that I can receive compound interest from this relationship, which means marriage, kids, poopy pampers, grandkids, if you're fortunate, great grandkids, and you just all the way through, that would be compounded interest on a relationship standard. The same applies in finances. You put in your money here and then just let it accumulate compounded interest because you're not fearful anymore. You have to stop living life with fear, through fear. You just got to lock in. So I'm going to take a sip of this kombucha because we got a lot more to talk about. And I want to talk about it because it's Halloween, my favorite month. This is the last day of my favorite month. And no, I wasn't born in October. It's just, I've come to the conclusion that I love October. It's beautiful. The weather is phenomenal. I love running. I love the sound of pine cones and acorns being crushed under my feet. Just like obstacles in life, as I'm running through these beautiful trees and just everything is just phenomenal. The weather is, you cannot beat. I love October. There's nothing to be afraid of. Not in life. There's no reason to be afraid. And I have been recording this entire video without my rim light on, and I'll cut it on for you because I want it to be perfect. Oh, better. Sorry. If you've been dealing with it this long, I do apologize. I have these shades on for Halloween. And yeah, I didn't realize. So hopefully that's a little better. Yeah, I guess. I'm not sure. But I do encourage you all. Outwork fear. And you can simply outwork fear. You can outwork it. But it requires work to outwork it. We can't say, "Oh, I'm putting in the work." If you're not disappearing for a while, studying and showing thyself approved, you have to question, am I really putting in the work? And that's what we want to do at Bonms. We want to continue to inspire you to encourage you to be the best version of yourself. And I know it's in you. You're here for a reason. You're listening to this and you want to overcome fear. Fear is a lie. It is it's false. Don't believe it. Don't believe it. I believe more in you than I believe in the fear that you are placing over your own life. I believe in you more than this false evidence of anything that's telling you you are not worthy enough to overcome anything in life. So I'll leave that with you. I know I mentioned that I had a lot more to talk about. Not necessarily quantity wise, but volume. I want to give it to you, the volume of inspiration. I want it to just get within And then you just crank up the volume. You know, you can just crank up that volume and let it just repeat, ring, echo within you that it's false. It's not real. You can outwork it. You can outwork it. You can outwork it. Who told you that you can believe in this illusion? Don't give yourself permission to believe in an illusion. It's a false evidence appearing to be real. You can outwork it. You just have to put in the time. And while you're putting in the time, have a different perspective, have a different approach. So it's not just about running the race. It's about running it with strategically. You have to run the race strategically. It's about running the race with the proper form. And the proper form with running the race to overcome fear, it's all in the mind. You have to, the proper form would be simply being more grateful and changing that perspective. So outwork fear, but do it with the right attitude. And I can assure you that you will no longer have fear ever again, because all this is applicable to every walk of life. As I mentioned, relationships, investments, finances, your health. You understand, you know that you're doing this for good. You get on that treadmill, you outwork yesterday. You know, they always say you can't outwork a bad diet. You start off with that, hey, listen, I drank that 300 calorie mocha latte from Starbucks. Well, you go burn 300 calories on the treadmill. You go burn 300 calories walking around your beautiful park, or a beautiful park in the most beautiful month to me. And then eventually you'll start, that's how you do it. That's how you do it. It starts off that you want to outwork something that you just consume. And then after a while, you'll say, well, how about I don't consume that thing and still put in the work like I did? And now you become in a calorie deficit, and that's how you start losing weight. That's how you do it. And everything, it'll just begin to translate in everything that you do. Everything. So as always, I really enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys enjoy your Halloween. Remember, not too much candy. Check those apples. Check the kids' apples. But really, enjoy yourself. It's all fun and games. Hopefully that this video was able to inspire you to put the evidence down. Boom. In your mind, mentally, put that evidence down and say, hey, this evidence is false, and we will not believe in it. Fear is officially guilty, and we sentence it to life and to confinement, and it will not be released ever again, and you will always win. Outwork fear and understand that it's not real. As always, I enjoyed you. This is Bonms. I am Ross, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. You never know. I might just be wearing this outfit again, or a different one.